in the aftermath of the Christmas Day tsunami. The nation was decimated, with nearly 100,000 casualties and millions left homeless. Already grappling with the decades-long civil war, Sri Lanka was ill-equipped to cope with the overwhelming devastation. Nonetheless, the team found an unexpected reason for hope. Pastor Adrian DeVisser and his congregation were active in the relief effort, rebuilding an entire village in eastern Sri Lanka. However, Pastor DeVisser was already hard at work creating a place where the nation's spiritual healing might begin.
I had a dream of what a national church should look like. I felt that because of our colonial past, there was too much of Western influence in the church, and I felt that God had called me to be looking outside the box, to look at something new, to develop something that is relevant, indigenous for our people, where something that they could relate to. And Ape Kadella commenced with this desire. So the reason for beginning Ape Kadella was to develop a relevant theology for our nation, and also to become a center for counseling, to train people, again doing something that is relevant for our culture.
His center, a sanctuary where the broken and hurting people of Sri Lanka, especially its widows and orphans, could find counseling and hope, was named Ape Kadella, Our Nest. Committed to helping those who society ignored, DeVisser began taking in orphaned and victimized children who desperately needed shelter. Kennedy is one of these children. At the age of 4, he witnessed his uncle kill his abusive father. Ape Kadella offered him sanctuary and hope for a better future.
අන්තිම වාර පාස් ෆේල් බලන විභාගයෙන් 14 වෙනියා ගත්තා. මෙයාට ආවේ අම්මා කලින් ඉඳලා කීකියා මෙන්න මේ වගේ ස්ථානයකට එක්කන් යනවා කියලා ඔයගේ අධ්‍යාපනීය හරි නැහැ කියලා. ඉතින් එදාර අම්මා වැඩ කරලා ඇවිල්ලා කිව්වා. ඊපස්සේ මම මේ වාර විභාගයෙන් 40 ගානකින් 7 වෙනියා ගත්තා.
The boys in the Ape Kadella program have become remarkably self-sufficient, leading their own homework and prayer hours, and taking care of their dormitory and each other. One of the leaders of the group is a boy named Gayan, who has plenty of experience taking care of himself.
He is the one who has become the number one in his class now.
Gayan's father kicked he and his brother out of the house. The two of them found work at a sand mine. It was exhausting and dangerous work. But the 12-year-old Gayan had nowhere else to go.
එහෙම ඩෝසර් වල වැඩ කරන්න බැරුව ගියා පොලිසියෙන් ඇවිල්ලා අක්කලා ඉවා අර යන සමහර දාවකට මම නිදිය ගන්නේ ඩෝසර් එකේ ගෙදර යන්නේ නැහැ දන්නේ නැහැ මොකොත් මෙහාට ආවම පස්සේ අධ්‍යාපනයේ පැත්තෙන් බොහෝ දුරට දියුණු වෙලා තියෙන හොඳටම.
Indika is the boy's caretaker and also a graduate of Ape Kadella's discipleship training program.
බයිබල් කොලෙජ් එකේ ඉඳන් මම ඉගෙන ගනිද්දී මට ලොකු බලපෑමක් කරපු විෂයක් තමයි මේ කවුන්සලින් කියන විෂය. ඒ අතරේදී මට තව කවුන්සලින් විෂයෙන් කුඩා දරුවන් අතර සේවය කරන්න. ඉතින් ඒතන ඉඳද්දී ළමා නිවාසයේ පටන් ගත්තා. ඊට පස්සේ මම කැමැත්තෙන් මෙතෙන්ට ආවා. ඒගොල්ලෝ මම දකින්න එක එක්කෙනා එක එක අංශවලට මේ දක්ෂතාවයක් කැමැත්තක් දක්වනවා. සමහර දේවල් තියෙනවා ඒගොල්ලන්ට තෝරගන්න අපහසුයි. නමුත් මම දකිනවා ඒගොල්ලෝ පැත්තකට බරයි කියලා. ඉතින් මම කැමති ඒගොල්ලන්ගේ වැඩි කැමැත්ත වැඩි දක්ෂතාවය දක්වන පැත්තෙන් ඒගොල්ලන්ව ඉදිරියට යවන්න. ඒ වගේම මම ඒගොල්ලන්ට හැමදෙස්සම කියන දෙයක් තමයි යේසුස් වහන්සේ තෝරගත්තේ ඒගොල්ලෝ 12 දෙනයි. ඒගොල්ලන්ගෙන් තමයි ලෝකෙටම බලපෑමක් ඇති කරේ. ඉතින් මම මගේ බලාපොරොත්තුව
Scripture says a pure religion is a religion that takes care of the widows and the orphans. When I looked at my country, I saw so many widows who were abused by our society. Because if you're a widow in our community, it means you bring bad luck, you lost your husband because of your karma, and so our society rejects them. They are not invited for any happy occasions, not for weddings. And on the other hand, they are exploited. People exploit them because of their poverty and their helplessness.
Ape Kadella offers shelter and healing for exploited and abused women. Malkanthi was sexually abused by her employer while working as a maid in Saudi Arabia. Malkanthi reported the rape, but rather than prosecute her employer, she was thrown in jail for 2 months. It was there that she realized she was pregnant. When she was finally allowed to return to Sri Lanka, Malkanthi was penniless and alone. Thankfully, God led her to Ape Kadella. Ape Kadella's job training program is designed to help women like Malkanthi learn to support themselves and their families.
I don't think the answer to help the poor is to give handouts or charity. That causes more dependency. What we need to do is to help people to become self-supportive. That gives them dignity and self-worth. And every single project is designed with this concept in mind.
Nilmini Fernando works with the women who live at Ape Kadella.
පුංචි කාලේ ඉඳන් මට කවුරුත් හිටියේ නෑ. මම ගෙදරක තමයි හැදුනේ. මට ගොඩක් ඒ ගෙදර වුණත් කිසි දෙයක් මට ඉගෙනුනේ නෑ ඉස්කෝලේ ගියේ නෑ මම. ඇත්තටම මට ඉර ගෙදර වගේ තමයි ඒක. අඳින්නවත් මට මොනවක්වත් ලැබුණේ නෑ.
When Rita was 21, the family gave her to be married to an abusive older man.
ඊට පස්සේ කොහමරි දුව හම්බුනාට පස්සේ තමයි ගොඩක් කරදරාවේ. ඊට පස්සේ ආ දාලා ගියා. ගියා කියන්නේ මගේ දුව පොඩි එක්කෙනා මරන්න හැදුවා. ඊට පස්සේ ආගේ අර උගුරට අත දාලා මේව කළා. එයා ඊට
Rita went to the police and her husband fled. Now she had no place to live and no family to rely on. She and her children lived under a bus stop awning until Ape Kadella took her in.
ඇත්තටම මං ගොඩක් සතුටු වෙනවා. මොකද මට ආදරයක් කරන්න කවුරුත් හිටියේ නෑ. ඒ වගේ මට ඇත්තටම මං හිතුවා දැන් මට නිල්මිනි සිස්ටර් ගොඩක් මට ආදරේ. ඇත්තටම මේ පාස්ටර් මට ගොඩක් ආදරේ.
I believe that the church's first responsibility is to help people to undo their baggage and be free from their emotional pain.
Although many Sri Lankans have experienced profound trauma, emotional counseling is not traditionally a part of Sri Lankan culture. In fact, before the tsunami, there was not a single counselor in the entire nation. In the spring of 2007, Resplendent Hope helped bring Dr. John Townsend, author of the international bestseller Boundaries, to come and speak to a conference of Sri Lankan pastors.
In Alcoholics Anonymous, they call that a dry drunk. They'd stopped drinking, but they didn't solve the pain and the injury inside that created the drinking. Are you okay? We want to help you in any way we can. We have all failed and we would never judge you. And when they come back in, help them to learn the spiritual character issues we talked about.
මේක අපිට ප්‍රයෝජනවත් වෙනවා. හිතුව ලංකාවේ හුඟක් අය උපදෙස් දෙන්න පුළුවන් තත්ත්වකනේ දේශනා කරන්න පුළුවන් අය හිටියට. මේක මට ආශිර්වාදයක්.
My dream is that Ape Kadella will become the center for national counseling and training so that we can become effective in helping our people who have come to our churches because of a need in their lives.
Despite all that's been achieved at Ape Kadella, the work continues. The recently completed library will support Ape Kadella's discipleship training program and missiological research. Nearby, A new orphanage will allow the ministry to offer sanctuary to many more abused and neglected children.
This will make them like a large community, this one and that one.
On a lot near Adrian's church, construction has begun on a building that will house 50 at-risk and abused girls, many of them victims of Sri Lanka's notorious sex trade.
The church is also confronted with the issue of sexual abuse. We need to find ways of helping these young girls to cope with it, to overcome it. We also must become a church that is committed to speaking out loud against the injustice that is done towards these young poor girls and bring about a change and eradicate this menace from our nation.
Colombo's busy free trade zone employs thousands of workers, mostly young girls, in intolerable conditions. Using land recently purchased by Resplendent Hope and others, Adrian is building a center that will meet medical needs for the workers during the day and serve as a counseling and recreational center at night. While Adrian's ministries bring immediate comfort and hope to people in crisis, his solutions are far from temporary. The programs at Ape Kadella and elsewhere are distinguished by a unique focus on sustainability. Ape Kadella is a working farm, able to subsidize some of its operating costs by selling livestock, crops, and homemade jams, while minimizing energy costs by turning livestock waste into fuel for its generators and Sri Lanka's plentiful sunlight into hot water for guests. In addition, all of Adrian's ministries are staffed by local volunteers and native employees, gifted and trained in their leadership areas.
Ape Kadella ගැන මම ස්තුතිවන්ත වෙනවා මේ ස්ථානයේ පිහිටුවීම ගැන. ඒගොල්ලෝ මට මාව විශ්වාස කරලා සම්පූර්ණයෙන්ම මේ වගේ සේවයක් බාර දීපු එක ගැන මම ස්තුතිවන්ත වෙනවා.
මම අපේ කැදැල්ලට ස්තුතිවන්ත වෙනවා. මොකද මම මෙතනට එන්න කලින් මගේ මෙතනට එනකොට මගේ අධ්‍යාපනය කටේ
මම දෙවියන් වහන්සේට ස්තුතිවන්ත වෙනවා. ඇත්තටම අපේ කැදැල්ල තුල මම අපේ කැදැල්ල ගැන කියනවා නම් ඇත්තම ස්තුතිවන්ත අපි වගේ ජීවිත මිනිස්සු නංව නැති ඒ හැම කෙනෙකුටම මම දෙවියන් වහන්සේ මාව පාවිච්චි කරලා මම දන්නේ නැති දේවල් මතක් කරගන්න දෙවියන් වහන්සේ මාව පාවිච්චි කරලා ඒගොල්ලන්ගේ ජීවිතවලට ආශිර්වාද කරමින් ඉදිරියේදී බලාපොරොත්තුවක් ඇති වෙනකක් කරන්න දෙවියන් වහන්සේ මාව දෙවියන් වහන්සේගේ වැඩේට පුංචි දායකත්වයක්
මම කැදැල්ලට ගොඩක් ස්තුති කරනවා. මාවත් මගේ දරුවෝ තුන් දෙනාත් මෙතනට ගෙනල්ලා මට රැකියාවක් දීලා තියෙනවා. මම ඒ නිසා ගොඩක් ස්තුති කරනවා මේ කැදැල්ලටත් ඒ පාස්ටර්ටත් මම ගොඩක් ස්තුති කරනවා.
මම ස්තුතිවන්ත වෙනවා. මම මෙතනට පැනනකොට මගේ චරිතය බොහෝ කළු පැල්ලෙන් ඇතිලා තිබුණා. නමුත් මෙතනට ආපුවන් පස්සේ මේ අපේ කැදැල්ලට ආපුවන් පස්සේ මේ වගේ ස්ථානයක්.
We believe that God has called us to be agents of change. We lack all of the resources we need, but I believe His grace is sufficient for us to make an impact and change our community and our society. Again, let me say thank you. You invested, you empowered us. Because you empowered us, we were able to be involved in meaningful ways of helping our people. Thank you very much.
Resplendent Hope would like to thank you on behalf of all the people whose lives you have touched with your continued support. The nation of Sri Lanka has a brighter future because of your generosity towards Pastor Adrian and his ministry at Ape Kadella.